Chapter 1. The Challenge. Lena and Maya had been best friends since they were little. They lived in the same neighborhood, went to the same school, and spent almost every moment together. Their friendship was strong, built on trust, laughter, and shared memories. However, there was one thing that made them different from other friends. They both loved challenges. Whether it was a game, a race, or a puzzle, they always found ways to push each other to do better. But one day, their playful rivalry would take a different turn. It all started at the local gym. Lena had been attending boxing classes for a few months, something she'd always wanted to try. The thrill of training, the sound of gloves hitting the punching bag, and the focus it required. It all fascinated her. She was getting stronger and faster with each session. Maya, on the other hand, wasn't someone who would sit back and watch her friend excel. She admired Lena's determination, but felt she could do the same. Maya had always been athletic, playing soccer and running track, but boxing was something entirely new for her. One afternoon, while hanging out at Lena's house, Maya brought up the idea. "What if we tried boxing against each other?" she asked, with a mischievous smile on her face. Lena laughed, thinking it was just a joke. "Are you serious? You want to box me?" She raised an eyebrow. Maya, always the more competitive one, nodded without hesitation. "Why not? It sounds fun, and I know I can take you on." Lena didn't take her friend's challenge lightly. "All right, if you really think you can handle it, we'll give it a try. But I warn you, I've been practicing." Maya grinned. "I'm up for it. Let's see who's the better fighter." The challenge was set. They agreed to meet at the gym the next day to start their training. But neither of them knew how this simple game would change their friendship. The day of the match. The next afternoon, the gym was quieter than usual. There were only a few people on the punching bags and others practicing on the mats. Lena and Maya walked in, both with their boxing gloves in hand. They had prepared for this moment, though the nerves were slowly creeping in. Neither of them had ever fought anyone seriously before, and the thought of hurting each other in a competitive match didn't sit well. "Are you sure about this?" Lena asked, looking at Maya with a slight concern in her voice. "Of course. It's just for fun, remember?" "We'll go easy on each other," Maya replied confidently, though there was a spark in her eyes that showed she was taking the challenge seriously. They started by stretching and warming up. The air was thick with tension as they adjusted their gloves and practiced their stances. They stood across from each other, each trying to read the other's body language. They had trained together before, but this time felt different. There was a new intensity in their eyes, a silent agreement that this would not just be a game. It was about proving something, not just to each other, but to themselves. Their coach, who had been observing from a distance, walked over to them. "Remember, girls," he said, "this is not about hurting each other. Keep it controlled and respect each other's boundaries. Boxing is about skill, strategy, and strength, not aggression." Lena nodded. Maya gave a quick smile, acknowledging his words, but not letting go of the competitive edge in her spirit. They squared off, the sound of their gloves gently tapping together as they prepared to begin. The match had officially started. The first round. Lena was faster. She had been training for months, and her reflexes were sharp. She jabbed quickly, trying to catch Maya off guard, but Maya, though new to boxing, had a strong foundation in sports and knew how to read her movements. She dodged Lena's first jab and quickly countered with a right hook. The punch landed lightly on Lena's cheek, surprising her. It didn't hurt, but it was enough to make her realize that Maya wasn't just playing around. Lena smiled. "Nice one," she said, wiping the sweat off her face. Maya grinned back. "I told you I could do it." The two continued to move around the ring, each taking turns landing punches. Lena's training showed in her footwork and precision, while Maya's natural athleticism kept her nimble and unpredictable. The sounds of their gloves hitting the air and the floor echoed through the gym as they danced around each other. Neither of them was fully committed to the fight. They were holding back, testing the waters, seeing how far they could go without crossing a line. As the first round ended, they both stepped back to catch their breath. Their coach clapped his hands. "Great job, girls. You're both doing well. But remember, pace yourselves. It's not a sprint." Lena and Maya nodded, wiping their brows. Their faces were flushed with excitement, their hearts racing. The first round had been a challenge, but neither of them was ready to give up. They were both determined to win, but more importantly, they were determined to show each other just how strong they could be. As they took their positions for the second round, they could feel the intensity building. What started as a friendly challenge was quickly becoming a battle of wills. Would their friendship survive this test? Or would they discover something new about themselves and each other through the sport they both loved? The second round was about to begin, and everything was on the line. Chapter 2, The Turning Point. The second round began with both Lena and Maya more focused than ever. Their friendly smiles from the first round had faded, replaced by an intense, almost competitive silence. Both girls knew that they weren't just boxing to win. They were boxing to prove something to each other. The air in the gym seemed to thicken, charged with the tension of their unspoken rivalry. As they squared off, Lena shifted her stance, ready to make the first move. She had the upper hand in terms of experience, and she knew it. But Maya wasn't going to back down. Her competitive fire had ignited, and she was determined to show that she wasn't just the beginner in the ring. Lena threw a quick jab, aiming for Maya's head, but Maya sidestepped, her footwork surprisingly sharp for someone so new to the sport. She countered with a punch aimed at Lena's ribs. Lena barely managed to block it, the force of the punch still making her take a step back. Maya was improving faster than Lena had expected. "Nice move," Lena said, breathing heavily. "But you're still not going to win." Maya grinned, her eyes glinting with confidence. "We'll see about that." The sound of their gloves hitting each other echoed in the gym as they exchanged blows. Lena was quick, but Maya was unpredictable, making it difficult for Lena to anticipate her next move. For the first time, Lena felt challenged. She wasn't used to being on the defensive, and it made her realize just how much Maya had grown since they started. As the round progressed, Maya began to find a rhythm. She had been an athlete her entire life, and the skills she had learned from playing soccer and running track were translating into her boxing. She wasn't just relying on strength. She was using her agility, her speed, and her ability to read Lena's movements. Lena, however, wasn't giving up. She was skilled and had a deep understanding of the sport, even if she hadn't expected Maya to catch up so quickly. She was starting to feel the pressure, but she wasn't about to let her best friend defeat her. With a fierce determination, Lena launched herself at Maya, landing a solid punch to her shoulder. Maya stumbled back, but she recovered quickly. "You've got some power there, Lena," she said, rubbing her shoulder, but there was no sign of defeat in her voice. "But I'm not backing down." The crowd in the gym, made up of a few onlookers and the coach, was starting to pay attention. It was clear that this wasn't just a friendly match anymore. It was a real competition, and the two girls were fighting with everything they had. They were no longer just friends testing their limits. They were fierce opponents, and the atmosphere had shifted into something more serious. As the second round neared its end, both girls were panting heavily. Their muscles ached from the intensity of the punches, but neither was willing to admit defeat. They paused for a moment, both of them dripping with sweat, their faces flushed and their breathing quick. "You're stronger than I thought," Lena said, wiping the sweat from her forehead with the back of her glove. "I've never had to work this hard in a match before." Maya grinned, her chest heaving with exhaustion. "I told you I could do it," she replied, trying to catch her breath. "I'm not going to let you win without a fight." For a moment, they just stood there, staring at each other. The tension between them was palpable, but there was also a sense of respect. They both knew that this match, despite being just for fun, was revealing something important about their friendship. It was testing their limits, their patience, and their ability to support each other even in the face of fierce competition. As the bell rang to signal the end of the second round, they both stepped back, giving each other a brief, exhausted smile. "We're doing good," Lena said, a hint of admiration in her voice. "Yeah," Maya agreed, though there was still a spark in her eyes. "But I'm not done yet." Lena nodded, determined to continue the match. But deep down, she knew that this competition had become more than just a friendly challenge. They were no longer just two friends sparring for fun. They were fighting to prove their strength, not just to each other, but to themselves. Their coach walked over, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. He could see that the playful nature of their match had turned into something more serious, and he knew that it was important to remind them of their original intentions. "Remember, girls," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This is about learning, not winning. Don't let your egos take over. Keep the spirit of the sport in mind." Lena and Maya both nodded, taking a moment to refocus. They had gotten caught up in the intensity of the match, but they had to remember why they started in the first place. Because they loved the sport, because they loved challenging each other, and because they respected each other's strength. But as the final round began, there was no denying that they had both grown stronger in the process. They were no longer just best friends. They were two athletes, testing each other's limits, pushing each other to be better. And whatever the outcome of the match, they both knew that this experience would change their friendship forever. The final round was about to begin, and they both stood in their fighting stances, ready to face whatever came next.